For this massing and conceptualization session, I'll cover drawing the walls around the perimeter of the space planning diagram that was created in the previous session, and then build a roof that can be used to visualize the design. The idea with this approach is to take a 2D plan concept and turn it into a 3D concept before spending a lot of time focusing on the plan details. Once the 3D massing and conceptualization are completed, then the floor plan details can be added as well as the exterior look and feel. With the exception of the floor plan details, let's get started by drawing the walls on floor 1. Using the exterior wall tool, I'm going to trace around the perimeter of the space planning boxes. I'm purposely not going to draw any of the interior walls because the focus in this exercise is to get the shape and the structure, and the interior walls have no or little impact. Let me speed through and add the exterior walls. Once the walls are completed on the first floor, you'll see the automatic exterior dimensions appear. Since those are set to be auto refresh, let's move up to the second floor and repeat the same steps to trace around the perimeter. Just kind of zoom in and center, use the exterior wall tool, and then I'll repeat the process by tracing around the perimeter space planning boxes. On this second floor, I will add one interior wall. The reason I want to use the room's ceiling height to make adjustments for the roof and wall heights. Since I previously built the second floor before there were walls, you might need to align the walls from the first floor. To assist with that alignment, you can use the reference display feature to show the walls below. Press F9 on your keyboard and it will superimpose those walls. Then you can position the walls on this floor accordingly. Now that I'm finished with the walls, let's take a 3D overview and see what we have. In the 3D view, you can see the default hip roof that was built. We set it to be a 1 in 12 pitch. Let's begin with the second story in making changes for the structure. I want to have a shed roof, and on the right hand side of the structure I want it to raise up quite a bit higher. That's where the entertainment room is scheduled to be. So let's do a few things here. I'm going to click on the wall in this area. I'm going to hold my Alt key down, rotate around, shift click, and grab both walls. Then I'm going to come down and use the change walls to gable, and then on the front wall, let's double click, open it up, and on the roof panel, I'm going to change this to be a high shed gable wall. Now let's go ahead and tile our views. I'm going to press Shift F6 on my keyboard. And then over in the floor plan view, I'm just going to turn off the space planning boxes so it won't clutter up the view so much. And then in the room space for that entertainment room, let's double click on the room. I want to raise the ceiling up quite a bit to create the larger spacing on this side of the house. Underneath the structure panel, I'm going to come down where it says rough ceiling, and let's try to add 4 feet in here and see what this does. Since our automatic roofs are on, we should see the adjustment with increasing that ceiling by 4 feet. That looks pretty good. Let's come back over and make another change. I'm going to grab the sidewall in this area and the sidewall in this area. I'm holding my Shift key down and then clicking. I'm going to convert those to gables. And then on the front wall, let's double click. I don't have a shortcut key for this, but I'm also going to make this a high shed gable wall. Now ultimately what we're going to do in here is remove the ceiling so that these have a shed ceiling as well. Let's click on the front of this wall. And let's do something very similar. Let's make this a high shed gable wall. And now I think that the top floor looks pretty good. Now I want to move down and work a little bit on the first floor to get the roof and the sizing for this structure put in place. Let's begin on the side over here. Click on the side wall. We'll convert that to a gable. And then click on the front wall. Double click to open it up. We'll mark that it's a high shed gable wall. Let's go ahead and rotate around to the right side of the structure and take a look at the garage area and the front of the house. Click on this wall, convert this to a gable wall. On the front wall, double click and select the high shed gable wall. For the rear area of the house, let's go ahead and rotate around, select the back wall, convert that to a gable. and we'll take the side wall, double click, and mark this to be a high shed gable wall. Then as we zoom in a little bit, take a look at the side. We could convert this to a gable wall. What I want to do in the back area is actually add a covered patio, and then we'll do something pretty similar to that on the front of the house. So let's switch back over into the floor plan view, and then we'll move down to the first floor. Then let me go ahead and fill my screen by pressing F6 on the keyboard. To create the covered patio back in this area, I'm going to extend the wall that we have off to the back until it snaps into the side of the garage. I'm going to use my break command, number 3 on the keyboard. I'm going to break the wall. I'm going to take the remaining wall segment and we'll just toggle it to be invisible. If we move back over into the 3D view, you can see that the roof is now extended over the area. When we name the area a patio or a porch, we'll fill that in with concrete and then remove the baseboard. Let's do a similar step with the front of the house. Let's go back into the floor plan. I want to put a covered porch on the front side of it, so I'm going to extend the walls and then we'll also toggle them to be invisible. So grab the side wall on this side, pull this down, then I'll use the diamond at the end, pull that around, and we'll do the exact same thing over here. Use the number 3 on the keyboard for the break command, click an intersection in this area, click on this wall, use the break command. I'm going to hold my shift key down and we'll grab all 3 walls and toggle those to be invisible. For the front porch, I want to set the 2 side walls. I'm going to click on both of the side walls. I'm going to change those to be a full gable wall. That way we can create a shed style roof. Let's go ahead and take our 3D camera view and take a look. And we'll rotate around to the front, zoom out, and you can see here's our covered porch. The roof looks a little odd on this end. On this first floor, let's click on the side wall over here. We'll convert that onto a full gable wall. That should clean that up. And now we have the covered porch. You can kind of see how the structure is coming together and determine if this is the right shape. Now, one of the things we can do here is maybe add a couple of columns to support the roof on the patios, and then change the room type to be a porch so that we can see the concrete in there, just roughly to make sure that the massing, sizing, and the way the structure is laying out is in line with the expectations for the client. Let's go ahead and move back over into the floor plan view. Now, the first thing we'll do is go ahead and click in the front room and the rear room, double click to open them up. And on the general panel, I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose the room type for porch. That will change the structure, add the concrete in there. And let's go ahead and open up the library over here. And I've saved a column that typically might use for something like this. I'm going to come over, place the first column in here. Then I'll go ahead and make a copy of that. And I'm going to do this in a sticky mode. Maybe turn on my crosshairs so I can use this as an alignment. And we'll just come in here and approximately put it off to the side of each one of the walls over here. I'll press my spacebar to get out of that mode. Let's make one more copy, and I'm going to slide a couple of these back into the back patio area, and then we'll just slide one more copy off to the side so that we can take a look at it. Okay, let's go ahead and go back into the 3D view and take a look what we have. So you can see the columns have come in here to support it. We don't see any of the concrete in the front or the back. So I'm going to build a simple foundation since porches receive their flooring typically from the floor below. That'll also give us a little bit of foundation for the house to kind of visualize it. So let's come up underneath the build menu, come down to floor, and build our foundation. So I'll just go ahead and turn on the automatic foundation. We'll build it on slab, and let's take a look. So that creates the foundation. You can see the front and then also the rear of the house. And with the automatic roof and the automatic foundation, any changes that we end up making to the walls will then shift around. As we go back in and add in the interior walls, we may need to make some final adjustment on room sizing. This will kind of give us an idea if this structure will work before we go to the level of effort of adding all those interior walls. Now, before we go to that step, let's take a look at making exterior changes to the structure specifically for the walls and try to get the look that we're after for this design. For the exterior materials, let's zoom around to the side and focus on a couple of the walls. On the front wall, I want to have a mixture of stone and another material on the top, and then a separate material over on the room on the right, which would be the office and then garage behind that. To begin, let me hold my Shift key down, click on the small wall off to the side. I'm going to hold my Shift key down, click on the front wall. I'm only going to change two walls to kind of see how this looks. With them both selected, let's use the Open tool in the lower left-hand corner of the menu. On the Wall Types panel, I want to come down and mark that this is going to be a pony wall. This is a two-part wall type. Could be a shower wall with the upper wall glass, the lower wall tile. For this exterior wall, I want to select a stone material. You can see it's using a default stone. And then the other thing I want to do is adjust the elevation of the lower wall type. And let's just start with maybe 58 inches to see how this looks. And then I do want to add a wall cap that will divide the two. It's using a default sill 03 in this case. The width and the height, we'll go ahead and accept the defaults for those. You can see the lower wall type is using the same stone material as I used for the columns that were already in my library. Let's open up the library and look at materials to use for the upper wall and then the wall on the far right side. To save a little bit of time, I've already pre-selected a handful of materials. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm going to grab the wood planking out of the library. I'm going to apply this in a component mode, so it's only going to apply this on a singular wall at a time. I can then determine if that looks good to me. Let's do the same thing for the office wall, the front right wall here, and I'm going to click and place that material. And then zoom in a little bit for the stone material and for the wall cap, which appears to be embedded or split into the wall. Let's just double click and open up both of these walls again using the Open command. On the wall cap, I'm going to come down and uncheck Split the Wall. That should then pop the wall cap out. I'm going to use the material that I have for the wall cap, and then when you're trying to evaluate your final materials, you can change your rendering technique maybe to using the standard technique. I happen to have line drawing turned on. Let's turn the line drawing off since that adds more of a abstract style view, and now you can kind of determine if that's the material that you like for the plan. Now, in applying that material, I've just browsed out to the library. I painted over the wall. I actually like to change the wall type, since in this case I've changed the front walls to be a stone wall. That's going to look thicker in the floor plan view, and I want it to be accurate. So instead of changing all of the walls by using the material painter as I've just done, I'm going to go back into the floor plan view and change the wall type, make sure that I have the wall type set up with these materials when I've finished the conceptualization process. So let's go ahead and move back over into the floor plan view and take a look at how that works. On the first floor in the front of the house, I'm going to go ahead and select the front walls. I'm just going to hold my Shift key down, click on each one of the front walls that I want to be all similar, to have that pony wall with the lower portion to be stone and the upper portion to be a hardwood siding. With those selected, I'll use the Open tool, and on the wall types, I'm going to change it from the wall that we were previously using, Stucco 6. I'm going to change that to be an upper siding wall that is the material that I'm interested in. If you don't have the material already defined, I've done that in preparation for the video. You can click on the Define tool. You can either make a copy of the wall and make the changes. In this case, you can see that my exterior layer, if I click on the texture panel, is using the material that I sprayed from the library earlier. So I do like to build specific wall types. That way the thickness of this wall, as you can see over in the preview, will have the defined thickness. Also, if you want to color code this or hatch it for your wall legend, you will have a different look to those for your floor plan view, and then can apply your wall legend. With the upper wall type set to be a siding 6 plank with that material, you'll notice that the pony wall has a square indicator in it. partly because a couple of the walls were marked to be pony walls, the others weren't, so there's not a predefined check mark. I will go ahead and put the check mark in here. Then we'll set the elevation. I think we use 58 inches. And then on the wall cap, we also changed that to not split the wall type. So uncheck that. Close this dialog. And on the rear of the house where the porch is exposed, I want to use the same wall type for the segment of the wall that's on the outside. When I sketched in the floor plan, I simply pulled the wall all the way across. I'm going to select the wall that goes all the way across. I'm going to use the number 3 on the keyboard, that's the break tool, mark a break in here, and then I want to take the wall that is exposed, and let's just use our object eyedropper. I'm going to pick up the wall that we just applied the pony wall materials to, and we'll apply it to that back wall. Now that wall is set. In the floor plan view, it's a little bit difficult to tell that the wall types have changed for those segments that have stone on them. Let's zoom in and take a look, and you can see that it is a lighter gray than the wall on the left, but you can't really tell much of a difference in the floor plan view. The display of your wall types can be controlled through your floor plan views. Let's switch from the floor plan view shell to just the floor plan. And now you can see the stone for that lower wall type is showing up. Let's just double click and point you to the direction. If you go under the wall types panel, you can see that the display in the plan view is set to be default. And if you then go in and just edit the plan view settings, you can see on the general panel you can control the pony wall display per plan view. You may not want this level of detail in the view that I've been using, the floor plan shell. I kind of use that as a brochure style view that doesn't give you much detail. But this allows you to get the wall layers and control how you would like to display them. And this is under your plan view settings on the general panel for the pony wall display. Now for the remaining walls here, let's take the exterior walls on this side. I'll go ahead and open them up, and I want to change the wall type for these. Let's go ahead and drop this down from the stucco. I'm going to set that up to be the siding 6 panel, and I've gone through the exercise of making a copy of an existing wall type and then applying the panel material that we used out of the library previously, and then you can define the wall type color and hatching if that wall is different. We'll go ahead and make that change, and then I'll do the same thing over here just using the object eyedropper. We'll click on those walls, and I'll just kind of speed through, click on each one of those side walls to make sure that they have all been received. Let's go back into the 3D view, and you can see as we kind of rotate around, we've made the changes to all of the first floor walls. And then on the floor plan view, if we just move up into the second floor, hold my shift key down and draw a marquee around those walls, and then we'll double click to open them up. And I'm just going to change the wall type from the stucco 6 to plank siding. Then back in the 3D view, you can see all the wall materials for both floors are now in place using the proper wall types. Now one of the last things I want to do is add a small pop out on the side of the structure to accommodate the fireplace. To do that, let me press Shift F6 on my keyboard to tile my views. In the floor plan view, let's go ahead and go down to the first floor, change the plan view back to the floor plan shell, and I do need to turn on the room space planning boxes. So let's go ahead and turn on the space planning boxes. Come down here and we'll just do a quick search for space planning boxes, turn those on. And then you see the pop out area for the space planning box on a fireplace. And if I just turn on the labels for that, you'll be able to tell that that's the fireplace label. I'm just going to use the exterior wall. We'll zoom in here, and I'm just going to come around. And let's just close our panel so we can actually see both views simultaneously. And then we'll take that wall, grab the diamond, we'll pull it down to the end, and then one last time return it back to the end wall. Now I need to lower the ceiling and also change the wall type or wall material. Let's begin with lowering the ceiling. Let's click inside the room, make sure we get the room. Double click to open it up. On the structure panel, I'm going to come in for the ceiling. We'll just set it to be 66 inches. Since we have automatic roofs and automatic foundations on, you can see the result. Let's grab both side walls, and I'm going to convert those to a full gable wall. That will create a shed style roof in here. And then the last thing is for the wall material, I'm going to just use the material eyedropper in the 3D view, let's grab the material off of the roof, and in component mode we'll just go around and spray the material for the walls. In the previous section I changed the actual wall type, but if you're after quick conceptual ideas, just use a material painter and then you can get your views that you're after to conceptualize your designs. And now we've taken the footprint of the floor plan and created the exterior that we want. And the purpose really from the conceptualization is to save yourself time so you don't go through the tedious exercise of drawing all the rooms. Realize that your exterior footprint, shape, sizing may not fit the client's expectations or maybe even your expectations. That wraps up this session on massing and conceptualization. The next session will cover doors and windows, schedules, and dimensions. Thanks for watching.
Okay, let's get ready for a few questions here. So if you have any questions, you want to ask them live that are relevant to today's presentation, we'll take those. You can raise your hand. If you have some questions that may not be that relevant to today's presentation, we might just ask you to push those to the end. If we have a little extra time, then we'll feel free to jump in and grab those. So with that said, I'm going to just turn it over to Carrie, and she's going to help curate the questions for us today.
Thanks, Scott. We have Brian with a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, Brian.
Hey, I noticed on your dropper function, your eyedropper function, it would highlight the source and the destination elements. Mine doesn't do that. How do I turn that feature on?
Okay, well, let's take a look, Brian. Grab our program here, and let's just do that from the floor plan view here. So when I use the object eyedropper, and we come in here and we pick up the object eyedropper, one of the things that I first do is I pick the target wall. So in this case, you can see my highlighting is on that left wall in here. And then when I click the button, you notice how my icon changes from the eyedropper to a spray can?
Right, I see it's highlighting the wall.
And then when I come over and apply it, it highlights the wall. So the question is,
Yes.
When I do it, you see maybe, I think I have my highlight set to be green. And what I like to do is I change my highlight so you can actually see it. And let's just peek and see what I've done here to make that happen. So underneath my preferences, a little P up here in my menu system, under the edit panel, let's see, where is that? That's probably under appearance. It's been a while since I've done it. Here we go. Under appearance and colors, there's an option here for section fill. Do you see that okay, Brian?
I see that, yes.
So if I were to switch that to maybe more of a, a reddish color, reddish orange, and now when I use that tool, you see how it changes the color selection?
Yes, I see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will go and try that, yes. That answers
Yeah,
my
I like
question.
to use it because when I select items, sometimes it's difficult to see what you're selecting. Where I've selected the porch room in this case, you can now very clearly see that it's highlighted. And I think the default might be a very light gray. And if I'm doing that over a gray wall, you may not even be able to see it. So thanks for the question, Brian. By the way, when you ask your questions, maybe just do a quick announce your name and where you're calling from today. Carrie?
Scott, our next question is from Rowan. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Scott, this is Rowan.
Yes, hi.
I'm from Minnesota.
Okay.
I have been using Chief Architect for about a month, probably. So it's still learning progress. I just couldn't figure out. I know I've already sent my questions, but I couldn't figure out when I'm drawing the walls. It just doesn't show all the details on it, and all my layers are on, so I can't figure out why.
Okay. So just so I understand your question, when you've drawn your walls, you're seeing lots of layers turned on, or you don't see the layers on. You would like to see them either on or off. Is that?
Yeah, I'd like to see them on 2D.
Okay. Sure.
because, you know, it's only shown like 2 lines for the wall. It doesn't show all the details on it.
Right. So one of the things that you can do is you can change, let me just switch this, go to the front. So you see in my wall layers here where I have a stone wall on the right and I probably have a siding wall on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And these are layers. I like to use the save plan views to control this. So if I just switch this over to, let's say, a kitchen and bath view, you can see that all of those layers get turned off. And when that save plan view makes the change, it's turning layers on and off. Now, if I click on the wall and then we open up our active layer display, you can see all of the layers when that is highlighted that you can turn on. So if you wanted to turn on the layers for the wall, then you can turn on those layers for the wall. And then in the session earlier, I'd mentioned in the save plan view, you can control, this is a stone wall that I've selected here that's in the orange highlight. That was actually controlled in the save plan view, where you can control the pony wall display. And if you wanted to display the upper and the lower wall, this is pretty common for kitchen and bath designers where they want to show a shower wall that has the lower tile and the upper glass. It's an option in here where you can turn that on. And I set that when I turn in my floor plan view, because I like to make sure that I show the actual wall thickness in here for the floor plan.
Yeah, that's mainly what I'm looking for, but my layers are all on.
Okay.
And I still don't see that.
So, Rowan, tell me what product you're using and what version you're using.
The 13, yeah.
Okay. Chief Architect.
13, yeah.
So,
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
On your layer table, there is a layer that says it has something to do with, I forget the name of it, but it's show the primary wall layers only. Show main layer only. If that is checked, that kind of behavior is going to be what she sees. See if her layer table has got that checked. Unchecked, show main layer only, and it should pop up.
So Rowan, when you click on a wall, I think what Al's pointing out here, when you click on a wall and you have your active layer display options open, it will show you the different layers you could turn on and turn off.
Yeah, and I have all of these on.
If you have them all on, let's just see what it looks like. So you see what happens is it, with the main layers only check mark in here, it's going to show a different view. So you may want to come in here and turn off a couple of those. Most of the time, when I want the details on, I'll turn on the walls and the wall layers. Then when I don't want as much detail, I'll turn off the layers, and then it's just a couple
now it
of
works.
lines. Yeah.
Perfect.
Does that work for you?
Thank you. Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Scott, our next question is from Gary. Hi, Gary. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Scott.
Hi, Gary.
I'm Gary from New Hampshire.
Okay.
In your example here, you placed a number of columns to support that overhanging porch roof.
Mm-hmm.
That raises a couple of questions. First of all, what if I wanted to do some sort of cantilever instead of columns?
Okay.
How would I work that into the design with either beams or steel of some sort? And also, let's say I didn't put any columns there. At some point, am I going to get an indication about structural integrity?
Yeah, good question, Gary. So let's take your last one about structural integrity. There is no engineering that the program does for you. So if you design something that can fall down, you can design something that can fall down. And it's always best if you're doing work and eventually you get to the point where you're going to build it, that you work with your structural engineer, or if you have the knowledge yourself. The program will let you do really anything you want. So if you want to span a floor joist 40 or 50 feet, there's no warning that will say that may not work for you. Now, if you want to cantilever this, let's go ahead and if I just come in here and draw a marquee around all of those columns, and I delete them, and we go back in and take a look at the 3D view, I now have those columns that are deleted. And if you wanted to cantilever that out, let's say you've got a floor beam or a floor truss coming out that extends out past that and it happens to line up. One of the views I like to use a lot of times in the rendering is glass house view, so you can see the platform line just barely right in here. So you could draw and expose a few beams in that design and have them poke out and then align your roof so that that would bear on those beams. If you don't want to draw beams, you could also just draw a solid. I use solids for those columns and then just draw it in an elevation view and have it appear that that's a beam that's coming out to cantilever support that roof.
Are there tools specifically for drawing beams like that?
Yeah, there are. If we go back over, let me just switch over and let's go into our framing for the floor. So I have a view for that. So the floor framing is going to occur on the floor above. So if we come in and we grab our floor framing tool, let's grab, where is this? Floor ceiling beam. And let's just see if we can poke one out a ways. And let's just double check how thick that guy is. So the depth is 14 inches. And let's go back over and type in the word beam so we can turn that layer on. Beams, floor beams. Okay, looks like I drew it. It came in on the wrong level. So let's just pull that down. That's okay. So here's that beam, and so you can use those to specifically identify where that thing is going to bear on. Then you can do an elevation view from one side and make sure that your roof is aligned exactly where you'd like it.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah. Now it looks like that is perhaps an I-beam, a steel beam.
Yeah, my default beam probably was a I-beam. So if you look at this as a steel eye,
okay, there it is.
In your default settings, you can set your beam type. When I've been doing some of the recent designs with the work, I've been using more steel post and steel I-beams. So I've set my default to be that style.
Okay.
And you can find that in your default settings under framing.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for calling in, Gary.
Scott, our next question is from Salah. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to ask that I'm not a professional architect, basically. So in Asian countries, we don't use gabions. We use flat roofs. So the problem I found basically is that I can't find how I can insert flat roofs.
Okay.
Please.
So if I understand your question right, you want to have a flat roof. And the question is how would you do that? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Chief Architect, you can draw a roof, and while it's not going to be perfectly flat, you can set it to be nearly flat at, let's say, at a 1/4 inch pitch, 1/4 inch and 12 inches. So if I were to take this roof, and I can maybe just click on it right here and turn off the automatic roofs. If I took this roof, currently the pitch of this roof is 1 in 12. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So if I switch that to 0, okay, press the tab key, it's going to get very near the pitch of 0, probably not quite 0, and that's going to give me a notification that I'm turning off my automatic roofs. That's okay. So now I've got, let's see if it actually says that it's 0. Oh, okay, I can get it exactly at 0. So there you go, it's a perfectly flat roof. Does that work for you?
Yeah, you mean we need to draw the pitch on 0 inches.
One of the easiest ways to do that, let me switch back here to the view. I like to mainly use the automatic roofs in the program to manage the roofs. And so if I were to grab the walls on the two sides for this porch and open them up, there's a roof panel here, and you can indicate the pitch. Actually, let's grab the front wall here. So you can manage the pitch right in the wall. So if I set that to 0 for that wall, then I can turn on the automatic roof tool, which allows you to build several different roofs. Let's turn the auto roofs back on. And then when we go back into the plan view, you really can't tell much of a difference, but the automatic roof is being generated, and in the wall itself is telling it what the style of the roof is and what the pitch of the roof is.
Thank you, sir. I got it.
Okay, great. Thanks for your call today.
Scott, our next question is from Naman. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thanks, Carrie. Hey, Scott, how are you doing today?
Good. Where are you calling from today?
I am Naaman Garg. I am an architect. I'm calling from a small town called Uvalde, Texas. We're about 80 miles west of San Antonio.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. So I have been working with Chief a lot, and I have all my plan views set up, and I use them very extensively. And the way that I'm doing them is I have like a floor plan, and then I also have a roof plan. So, and they have their different settings with layers and everything. The one thing that I'm struggling with is how to show my layers up. So in my floor plan, when I'm looking at the wall, I have a stud wall with stone finish. So let's say, for example, I have a 2x6 stud wall, and then another 5.5-inch stone wall on the outside.
Okay.
Now, what I do want to see on my roof plan is, so if you want to zoom in on that for the conversation, I'm seeing like on my floor plan, I'm seeing all the layers. So I'm seeing like the jib board on the inside, I'm seeing the sheathing and all those things. On the roof plan, however, I just want to see the stud wall and one line for the stone layer. And I know I got an answer over here that I can do that with wall editing by taking out the fill and everything, but that changes the wall type and all the layers.
Okay, well, let's see if we can answer your question here.
And I have tried with the show main layers only or things like that, but I have not been able to achieve that.
So let's go down to the first floor. So we are looking at the exact same thing. Okay, so on the left-hand side of my screen, we're looking at the front wall and then the pop out where it becomes stone. And this is in my floor plan, say plan view, right? So you see all the details of the wall, all the layers are on. On the right-hand side of my screen, the exact same view, it's using the roof plan. And what I've done is I've turned off all of the wall layers, and then also made a slight gray outline. If you zoom out, you can actually see the roof plan itself, right?
Right.
And so the way that I typically do that is in your active layer display set. Let's just tap on the wall here. You can see that my walls, normal, the only thing that's checked is walls. And then I've changed the color to be a very light gray.
Right. May I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
I want to see that outer edge of the stone as well.
Okay, so that is controlled in the Save Plan view itself. So let's go over into the Edit Active View for the roof plan. And you want to see both the upper wall and the lower wall?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and turn that on. So now you're seeing the upper wall and the lower wall.
Awesome. Okay. All right. That I think will do the trick.
Is that what you're after?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, you bet. Thanks for calling in, Newman.
Thank you.
Scott, we've had a few people write in to ask if you could demonstrate how you place the columns because they noticed that the foundation was not modified when the columns were placed.
Okay. Okay, well, let's make sure that, I don't know what we've done here to this plan. Let me just close it real quickly and reopen it. Well, no, actually, because I think we deleted the columns out. So one of the things that I did in the session was save the columns in the library to save a little bit of time. I would have created those columns using the Polyline solid tool. And if we come over into my catalog and you look at the materials here, you can see that I actually have the column here. And if I come over and we place that and we take a look at it, let's peek at this in 3D. So there's the column that I just placed. So this is made up of a series of Polyline solids. If I just kind of unblock it here, there's 3 segments. There's the lower segment, the cap, and then the upper segment. And I just used the Polyline solid tool, group selected them by holding my shift key down. I've got all 3 of them. I blocked them and then I added it to my library. And that's just an easy way to do it. Usually I'll draw this in a floor plan view, take an elevation view so that I know exactly where that's going to meet the upper beam. Of course, we've changed the roof now because it's a completely flat roof. And then when I have a beam in there, I can then click on this and draw it up so that it snaps into place. And that's kind of how I managed it for the purpose of today's session. And then when I'm actually drawing it for the purpose of the house, then I'll do as I described. I'll make sure that I run the elevation views and make sure that the beam is then bearing on top of that post and run my dimensions as I need to.
Thank you, Scott. Naaman has a follow-up question to his question he just had.
Okay.
Hey there again. So my thing, when I was working on it, it is the same wall. So it's not 2 different types of walls and it's not working on one type of wall. So what is, it is like a brick wall and the brick goes all the way from the bottom to the top. So essentially I'm just seeing the inside of the stud wall and outside of the stone wall. I'm not seeing the line in the middle.
Okay, so let's go back to our floor plan view over here. And so you're working, in this case, this is my stud wall. Let's right. Actually change that so we can see that. Let's make that a little bit darker. There we go. Okay, so I made that a little bit darker.
Right.
Okay, so if you click on the wall and you look at your active layer display options, if you turn on the main layers only, you're only going to see the main layers of the wall. And so you may not see that outer thing. So
right.
Make sure
right,
that's turned.
Right. So I have my main layers only is turned off.
Okay.
And wall normal is the only one that's turned on when I'm selecting the wall. But
okay.
If you click on that and if you remove that pony wall option, then you may see what I'm seeing here.
Okay, well that would be the same wall as this one over here. That's not a pony wall on this side.
But is that a stone wall? Does it have like stud and stone on the outside?
Well, let's make it so. Let's open it up. Let's go to the wall types and let's change it to be. Let's just make it a brick wall so that it's clearly different.
Right.
And
right.
if you look at this, it's made up of a 2x6, and then it has, well, it looks like it's not quite brick. It's something on the outside. So let's just make it so we have brick, so it's very clear. Okay. And if we peek at it, I think it was this wall. Let's just make sure that it's using the default exterior material. I made some changes earlier. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have brick there, right?
Right.
Okay, so then we're looking at it,
Right.
and that's what we're seeing right now. So you want to see the brick line, is that right?
Yeah, I want to see the stud, yeah, the 5.5 inch or 3.5 inch stud line to kind of separate out, to kind of see like, hey, there's like two different wall things happening over there.
Okay, so I turned on my wall layers.
Right. But now I'm seeing everything on there. All I want to see is like 2 things to keep it clean.
So you want to see the outer and the inner.
Okay, so I want to see 2 lines for the stud wall and and 1 line for the outer brick wall. Or I don't even mind if there's like, if I see the 2 lines for the brick wall, but I don't want to see the stud and the finishes and the fills.
So you don't want to see the gray finish, right?
Right, right, and the stud and the sheeting layer. I'm sorry, the gyp layer and the sheeting layer. I don't want to see that because when I'm looking at the roof plan and I'm giving dimensions, I just want to reference, you know, the studs or the bricks or something like that for my contractors.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Let's turn on main layers only. That turns that off. Yeah. Well, one way to do it might be to customize that wall type and turn off the fill for your stud. If you want to see it in your floor plan view, then it would look different. Let's see if, let me just see if Al may still be out there and has any idea what we might do to that wall to get what you're after.
If you're going to just want the studs and the outer edge, I think Scott talking about changing the wall definition probably is the only way other than just fixing up something with the CAD lines and putting them on a specific layer that you can toggle on and off. Because what you're really looking for is something intermediate between what we're doing.
Correct.
You might want to go with just showing, turning off the wall layers, and that'll give you the inside and outside, and you can use some sort of fill line or something in the wall. But,
right, but that also goes on the floor plan. On the floor plan, I like how it is, you know, with all the detailing, because it's on a 4th scale, and it has like much to be seen, and that kind of helps with the cabinets and everything as well.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
And I think the only way you're going to really achieve what you want is with just using that particular right there, that configuration, and then maybe adding a CAD line that's on a specific layer that toggles with the roof plan.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much.
We have Brooke Pinnock here. Hi, Brooke. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Brooke.
Hi, I am from Idaho, Southeast Idaho, so maybe not too far from you. I have a client who wanted 10-foot ceilings. So the plan is completed with 10-foot ceilings, and now he wants to drop them to 9 for costs. Typically, I go in and change every room individually. Sometimes I'm able to hold the shift button and click several at a time and lower the ceiling height. But is there a way to just change the entire floor and have this roof change with it and everything?
Okay, so good question. I don't have a lot of walls in this plan. Let's just turn off the space planning boxes. So if I understand the question, you had a client that changed their mind. And
yes.
Okay, so the client's changed their mind. You've had the 10-foot ceiling, and in the meantime, you have a handful of rooms in your design, and I'm just going to draw a few walls through here to represent that we have a bunch of rooms in here. And as a result of that, all of a sudden, the client wants to go from 10 foot to 9 foot. And if we open up this room and we look at it, I'm actually using a 10-foot ceiling right now, right?
Okay.
So one of the easiest ways, if I understand it right, if you want to change all of your rooms, and this happens to be a garage and our porch out here, if you want to change all of the rooms for your design, one of the easiest ways to do that is to change it by floor. And so underneath your default settings, you can come into floors and rooms. And for floor 1, if I just open that up, I can now come over here and change the ceiling height from 10 foot to 9 foot. Okay, so I'll just come in here and say -12, press the tab key, and you see my default now is using the 9-foot ceiling.
Wow, how do you get that to change your, so you're set up to change, oh gosh, I don't even know what it's called. On my elevation, like on your elevation here, it just automatically changed your, what are those little things called?
The roofs or the shadow boards or?
No, the dimensions.
Yeah, sure. Oh, the story pole dimensions?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let's take a look. Before I do that, let me escape out. Let's take an elevation view of this. And before I do that, let me just close it and reopen it because we did some crazy things to this thing. So let's go back in and reopen it so that we kind of know what we have. And if we take an elevation view, let's zoom out, shoot an elevation here. So here's our elevation, right?
Yeah.
And we use our automatic story pull. Let's see what we get here. Okay, we'll just go with that. There's our story pull, right? Top of plate, 10 foot.
Okay.
So now let's go in to our default settings. And one of the things I'm going to check is make sure the roof is on automatic rebuild. So that looks good. So I don't know what will happen. Let's go into the default settings, just like we were before. Come down to floors and floor levels. And on the first floor, I am going to just say -12 inches. Adjust floor 1 to the 9-foot ceiling. Okay. Top of plate, 9'1".
Okay, so I guess I have a lot to learn because I have the those elevation dimensions. I just have them in my library and I just pull them out of my library and I change them by hand every time.
Oh, okay. Well, the way that that I'm doing it, not to say that what you're doing is incorrect. I just use the dynamic aspect of the program. So when I change the pitch of the roof, or if I went up on the second story and changed one of the room heights or all the room heights, then the automatic dimensions are snapped to those objects and they'll move.
So could you show me where you get that from?
Well, when I ran that dimension, let's just redo it. So when I run the elevation, okay, so I'm just going to use the elevation camera, point, cut a slice through here. So the tool that I used was the automatic story pole dimension.
Oh.
Do you see that okay?
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of stuff that I never take advantage of.
Yeah, and you can configure that story pole if we come down into our dimensions. You can configure how you want this story pole to dimension. Right now, I only have it on the left. You could turn it on the right. You can figure out what elevations you want it to locate in here. And then when you run it, it will then place those just like I did. And then if we go back in, let's take a look at another way to do this. Let's just draw a couple walls in here to create some rooms. So let's assume that we have a handful of rooms in here. And I'll show you one other way you could quickly change this. And let's create a real small room right in here. So I've got a handful of rooms, right? 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I can do is I could hold my shift key down and grab all of them and then open them up. And then I could go in and change the settings. So you can do it by multiple selecting rooms and making the change as well.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for calling in today, Brooke.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.
Scott, our last question comes from Tamala. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi there, Scott. In regard to roofs, sometimes I will start with an automatic roof and then I'll adjust it. And there are, the little pulls. Sometimes I want to get rid of them because there's far too many. And if I go to pull one line, I have to pull several of those little pulls. And why I'm forgetting what those are called right now. The little, a break point. So,
okay, so you're talking about these little diamond ends that you have.
Yeah, sometimes the diamond ends, sometimes they're rectangular. They're just for, yeah, like that. They're pulling ones. So sometimes on a line, there will be a whole lot of them and I don't need them all.
Okay, sure. So let's look at a situation where you have a whole lot of points along this roof, right? So this roof plane, I put a bunch of points in there. And you want to maybe get rid of them? Is that what you're asking about? Is that the issue?
Yes.
Well, if they're all in a line, and in theory, these should all be in a line since I just clicked that little break guy. In my lower edit menu, there is the option, if you look in the very bottom, that says simplify, and this is anything that's got multiple points. It's called a polyline in this case. Simplify the polyline. And what that's going to do is it's going to look between the points that you have selected and say, are they all collinear? And if they are, I'll go ahead and remove them.
Okay. Here was what I called in yesterday, and I worked with a technician, and we couldn't find that icon on my menu. And I noticed that you have clicked it and now it has disappeared. Yeah.
If I don't have the condition, if it doesn't exist, the tool does not display. Not until I have the condition do you see that tool.
Yes.
So since I now added that point, you now see that simplify tool out there.
Okay. All right. I'll go back and take a look.
So just take a roof plane or just a CAD box and, put a couple points in there, and then you can see how that tool works. And I use it quite a bit to simplify things. If you're modifying some 3D solid or roofs in this case, then I use that quite a bit, that tool.
Okay, well, I will go back to that plan and see if I can approach it from a different way. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
You bet.
Looks like you were able to get to everyone's questions today, Scott.
Okay, great. Just a couple parting comments. First of all, thanks everybody for attending today's session. A few things that we have coming up. We have a virtual training event that will be coming up. And actually next Wednesday, we'll start with the introductory training that will run 4 hours a day, and then we run it across 4 days. We'll have a kitchens and then a intermediate class that will start in mid-March. So if you're interested in doing those things, as I kind of just switch over and open up the Chief Architect website. Just come over to our events calendar. You'll find that underneath the user center menu under training events. So our virtual training is coming up. And then we do have a boot camp. If you want to learn a little bit more about Chief Architect, maybe you're new to the program, or maybe want to be new to the program, the boot camp is a nice training event. That's Friday. It's free, and it's a great way to participate with the session. So the following Thursday, we're going to continue on this project. We did the space planning initially. We've done the massing and conceptualization. We're going to then look at door and window schedules and look at dimensioning, how to dimension the floor plan with all of those objects in there. That'll be next Thursday, same place, same time. Go ahead and sign up. If you're an NKBA member, remember our sessions are available for credit. So if you're a credit collector, feel free to submit that and you can get credit. Then the following weeks we have foundations, roofs, and then ceilings coming up with additional topics that we'll have upcoming. And with that, I'll just thank everybody for coming today. Hope you have a great day. Take a look at your email that will be coming in with the survey and a recording of today's session. Thanks and have a great day.